In this video, we're gonna take this Savage 110 6.5 Creedmoor rifle and give it a much needed makeover. We're gonna put it in an Ultradyne Picatinny chassis. This is the latest chassis from Ultradyne. We've had great results with it, but this time we got one in the white. We're gonna go through a Cerakote camo job as a part of the process. This is gonna be cool. Hey guys, Gavin here from ultimatereloader.com. I'm excited about this project. We started upgrading this Savage 110. We put a Bixen Andy trigger from Bullet Central in it. We've got this nice Athlon Helo scope. But I mean, take a look at this. This is a very floppy stock. It's not really allowing this rifle to reach its full potential. So what we're gonna focus on in this video is a chassis upgrade. And not just any chassis, but the new Picatinny chassis from Ultradyne. You're gonna wanna see our other stories covering that chassis. This time we got it in the white. How cool is this? So we don't have to blast off any kind of anodizing or other Cerakote. We're gonna be able to just give it a light blasting for mechanical adhesion. And then what I'm thinking to do with this is a digital camo Cerakote job, which I have not done. When I went to the applicator training, I did a conventional camo. Very fun process. There's some things to consider. We'll cover that in this video. It was demanding, but man, did that turn out nice. That was for an AR-15. Now we're doing a chassis. Let me go over the components that we've got. So the main chassis section, the buttstock, this is the new Picatinny buttstock, and this is the folder version, which is great because this is gonna be a compact 3M lock slot build. We've got the spigot, which is gonna give us further extension, kind of a nice optimization. Compact main chassis, spigot extension for use with a bipod. We've got the chassis bridge here if we wanted to run a night optic or something like that. And we've got the adjustable grip, vertical, just how I like it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go look at all of the stencil artwork that I've got. I'm gonna go to the Cerakote website and check out some cool digital camo jobs, come up with a preliminary plan, and I'll see you in the booth when we start blasting these parts and spraying down the base coat. So our base colors have been tacking for 10 minutes and we're a little over 180. So I'm just gonna do a thumbprint check on this to see how it's looking. Yep, that's gonna be good. We're ready to take those out so that they can cool off. Great. where we can kind of wrap around the corner a little bit. You don't want things to be right at the edge. You want it to be literally over the edge. Yeah, that's nice. I like that. Well, the camo Cerakote job is done and I couldn't be happier, and it really helps to get some help from the folks over at Cerakote. I started on the website. I decided this time I'm going to have a very concrete plan going into this, because when you get into camo jobs, there's multiple layers and multiple effects, and you kind of have to have a plan going into it. So I looked at digital camo Cerakote jobs, and one thing I noticed was a lot of the digital camo is overly contrasted. Sometimes the digital camo elements get overly small, a little bit hard to see. So I decided to go with a more subtle approach. And so I sketched out some things on paper to put together a plan. And that was to start with the darker color and then to move to the lighter color so that the darker panels would show through. And then also to do multiple fades. So the guys over at Cerakote sent me some files for the vinyl cutter. I had Kyle on our team do some cuts here. As you can see, I didn't even use that much here because of the subtle nature of what I decided to do for a design. So I sketched it all out. I had a plan. Part of it was to get Cerakote under the area where the spigot mounts. The other was I knew I was going to leave the black folder on here so I didn't have to overly coordinate the fade over there on the buttstock attachment end. And the overall idea, just keep it really basic, really simple, and something that you could see from a distance. I think that was why I went with the larger scale. So I had my plan put together, I had my vinyl cut, then it was time to start the actual work. So the only disassembly I had to do was the buttstock. It came assembled. So I took it apart, the butt pad, the cheek riser, and the corresponding hardware, and then cleaned out the acetone tank, gave everything a good dunk, and then it was over to the blaster. So we're using 100 grit aluminum oxide at about 90 PSI, and just giving it a textured layer so that we have mechanical adhesion, because that's how Cerakote works. That base layer has to have mechanical adhesion. We're doing multiple top coats here in different colors. Those can blend with the solvent because we just give it a flash, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So after the acetone dunk, everything was clean. Then we did the blasting. Then it was time to prep for the base coat, right? So I racked the blasted parts. I sprayed them off with compressed air prior to that, got them all racked up next to the GS3 457 booth that we're using from Built American. Just a little note here, Built American makes the best Cerakote booths and ovens. We have 2 discount codes now. We have UR5 saves you 5% on any individual piece of equipment, but if you buy 2 or more pieces, the UR10 code will save you 10% off your entire order. So that is definitely the best deal going, and something that you're going to want to look at if you're upgrading your equipment or if you're starting a Cerakote shop. Okay. So I got things racked, ready to roll. Time to mix the Cerakote itself. So we're working with OD Green here. I fired up the Cerakote app, got my ratios sorted out. It turns out I didn't quite mix enough, but that wasn't a huge problem. So I decided to go with 2 full base coat layers for the green, the OD green. And I started with some cut-in on the chassis and then did the typical 8-sided pattern that you do when you're spraying Cerakote. Careful to come from 2 different angles because we've got different features, including Picatinny rail features and that kind of thing. So it had been a while since I'd sprayed, but it felt really good to get back in the booth and to work with Cerakote again. So after the 2 full coats and after a brief flash, I fired up my BAE 0200 oven to 180 degrees. Now, this is a scenario, if you're doing production work like this, where 2 ovens is hugely advantageous, and I'll tell you why. When you're doing between coat flashes, you're going to be at about 180 degrees and you're going to put the product in there for about 10 minutes. So the goal is to flash just long enough that if you touch the part, it doesn't leave a fingerprint or thumbprint. You need to be able to handle the Cerakote and mask it and manipulate it and not damage it, but you don't want to bake it for so long that the solvent in the subsequent coats won't activate the base layer solvent and provide that adhesion that you want. It's a little bit of a balancing act. And this is where having 2 ovens is hugely advantageous because you can have one going at 180 to do your flash coats, and then you can have one going at 250 to do the full cure, and you're going to be rotating parts through that kind of thing. So that's why I have 2 ovens. If you're working with polymer, you're going to be at a lower temperature. If you're working with metals, you're going to be at a higher temperature, and then also the flash and full cure stuff. So the base layer flashed for 10 minutes. I checked it, I brought it out, re-racked things, and then prepared for the FDE coat. So this was going to be a lighter coat. And one of the really important things when you're working with stencils is to not overspray. If you spray your coats too thick, you're going to get edge buildup, and that looks horrible. And sometimes you'll get a little bit of a leaking where your stencil masking goes over the edges, that kind of thing. So you want to make sure that you're spraying just enough product on to get the coverage that you want. So the FDE was looking good. I did that spraying. I let that flash for a minute, and then I just mixed up some black and did shadowing. I wanted to shadow around the areas where the digital camo blocks were to provide some contrast. And then, you know, on the buttstock, we just have a fade from the FDE to the black to the OD green, which I think looks really, really good. So that was really fun. And then when I was done spraying, I gave it another 15 minutes flash and then put it back into the BAE 0200. Now I also have the BAE 0300 that has the roll-in capability. If I was doing a bunch of parts and doing production, I would definitely have them both fired up, as I mentioned, one at 180 and one at 250 for this H series Cerakote. So then it was time to bake for a couple hours for that full cure. I came back, I could not wait to see what this was gonna look like, got them out of the oven, and then took a look, carefully unmasked with a pick. This kind of stuff, you just have to have a lot of patience. You just can't get ahead of yourself. You got to take the time because it's that extra 5 or 10% of time that's going to make all the details come together. And that's really what pro level work is all about. So I got the masking off. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, wow, mission accomplished. This is pretty much exactly what I set out to do. I'm really liking the look. And at this point, we're ready to do final assembly of the chassis and then put the barreled action and the chassis together. So that is what I'm going to do next. Well, the rifle is all put together and it is looking awesome, I must say. I had already installed the spigot, so I started in terms of reassembly after the Cerakote with the buttstock, and it's super, super easy to put together. There's basically one screw, if you open this up right here, that holds the folder adapter to the main section of the buttstock. And then basically while holding the dials in place, you put the rods through for the cheek riser and the butt pad, and then engage the screw threads, get them to the appropriate adjustment, and then install the locks. Super, super simple stuff. There's also the mag catch, and Ultradyne provides a pin. So basically there's a spring, you put a pin through the actual mag catch assembly, and then push it through with the screw that holds it all together. So there's basically an alignment tool. It's just a pin included, makes that super easy. And then we've got the adjustable vertical grip. So basically there's a spine, there's a screw that goes through the spine and through the basic grip adapter. And then you've got two halves. You've got screws that have nuts on the other side. Real simple to put together. And I pushed this all the way back because I have fairly long fingers, and that's going to give me the appropriate length of pull for the trigger. So super, super easy stuff to do. I love the fact that this is such a compact package. So basically the folder is kind of a must-have for a rifle for the field, I think. And it's also super rigid. There's absolutely no flex in that portion. And our this is so much more rigid compared to our flexible rubber stock that we had from the factory. And this means that we're ready to go to the field and put this guy through its paces. That is going to be fun. All right. Nice. Well, I'm back from shooting, and of course, it's always fun to go up to the Ultimate Reloader Ridgeline range and shoot long range steel. I decided on the Cerakote Hybrid 46. I had this sitting around with a cover on it, and I thought that's going to be really good. And 6.5 Creedmoor is just the perfect cartridge for this kind of shooting. We started at 335, we went to 385, and then I stretched out to 706. And after shooting this yet again, I just really love the ergonomics and the overall dynamics of this particular chassis. And the Picatinny really brings things to the next level. In this case, we have a much improved folder design. It's super rigid, makes the rifle more compact. We could put a brake on here and have things be really compact. This is a 20-inch barrel. I was thinking this would be the perfect rifle for a 16-inch barrel and a shorter suppressor, something like that. So in the end, this was a really fun project. What I'd like to know is, what do you think of this Savage 110 package with the Ultradyne Picatinny chassis UD3 edition? Is there something specific that you'd change? If you were going to run a UD chassis, would it be UD3 or UD6? Would you throw on the spigot? Tell me all about it. Drop a comment and we'll meet you down there in the comments section. And one final reminder, if you're in the Cerakote business and want to save 5% on a single piece of Built American equipment, the UR5 code will get you that. And if you're going to buy more than one piece of equipment, UR10 will save you 10% on your entire order. This is a super good promo, and their equipment is just absolutely top notch. So that concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're watching Ultimate Reloader on TV and want to take advantage of free resources, exclusives, and hot deals, just hold your camera phone up to the QR code, tap on the link, fill out the information, boom, you're getting Ultimate Reloader emails. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. Thanks again for watching.